I think I recently came across that fact checkers have to be registered with the government as
Yes,
well.
yes, yes, yes.
Any thoughts on that?
So the fact checking notification was done on April 6th. It's also done in the IT rules. So over 3 years, each year, the IT rules have been expanded, they have been amended. 2021, the IT rules are made. Four different big categories are covered: social media, um, internet based messaging platforms, digital news media, online video, curated streaming services. 2022, a government accountable appellate committee, a grievance appellate committee, sorry, grievance appellate committee is made. 2023, fact checking power is vested with the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and it authorizes, or it was made on April 6th through a notification. It authorizes, and here's also the thing I'd like people to know, that notifications are made by ministries. Notifications are made when they have power. This power comes from an act of parliament. An act of parliament by itself represents the democratic will of the people because it's deliberated, at least idealistically. Even notionally, a party having power at least lays statements of objects and reasons. There's some discussion. Even if that does not happen, parliament still creates a power. The IT rules are being amended and created without that legal power being there. They're just notifications. It's executive power. Okay, that's one. But let's now discuss what is this power. This power is a Orwellian power in which a fact check unit of the central government will be notified to check what is fake or false or misleading information in respect of any business of the central government. In effect, the central government will decide that what reporting about it is fake, false, or misleading, and it has not defined what is fake, whether it needs factual inaccuracy, a contextual statement, etc. It's a broad subjective phrase by itself. And this becomes important because quite often fake, false, or misleading, when the government itself determines what is fake, false, and misleading, it does so sometimes without itself being accurate. In fact, I wrote a op-ed in the Indian Express on April 11th, which contains one such instance in which there was one government department which was fact checked by the Press Information Bureau, and then it turned out the government department was correct and it said, no, we are actually recruiting people. The fact check which was offered by the government itself of another government ministry turned out to be false. This is not a critical report. This is the government itself's not having the ability to be accurate about itself. And what I think is that quite often the role of journalism in the world today is to quite often question what the government is doing. Now, we already went over the problem transparency. The government is not being transparent with regard to its decision making. So there will be a lot of journalism which will be done on the basis of source based reporting, right? There will be a lot of investigative reporting which will be done about the government. Quite often, these journalists may not have, in every instance, a document which is authenticated, but they may have enough, and the substance of their assertion will be accurate, truthful, and in public interest. But with a secretive government which does not put out reasons, it can quite ordinarily say this is false, this is misleading. But what is the consequence of it holding what is false, fake, and misleading? It can issue a direction for the removable of that press article from the entire tech stack. What does that mean? It means that not only will it not be available on Twitter, like the tweets will be removed, right? It will also be made unavailable on the website which is hosted, possibly on a hosting service such as Amazon Web Services. It will also be prevented from distribution on internet connections which are serviced by Jio or Bharti Airtel or Voda. So, by itself, the government has created an unsanctioned censorship power in terms of anything, it by itself determines to be fake, false, or misleading. And here's the kicker: those reasons do not need to be published or be made publicly available.
The biggest issue, at least I find, is the removal part, right? I mean, in the sense that, like, even if they would flag the information as misleading, I think just because it's a government agency and the knowledge that it's a public agency would probably discredit the what is that,
Yeah, press
the fact
report.
check itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like I don't know, man. It's like RTV. I mean, the Russian TV. I don't know, any state sponsored. What is that? Like whenever generally
The
people
state
watch
has
state.
tremendous, yeah, the state has a tremendous platform. It has tremendous resources compared to others, and it has the press information bureau, so it can put out press releases. It does it quite often in response to reports it does not agree with. It's the creation, as you're saying, it's the creation of power for censorship, for the removal of the original
For the
report.
removal, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
without assigning reasons and making even those directions public.
right. So a few things there. So one thing is, so let me just put everything out. So first thing is, like, one obvious thing which pops to my mind is like, what is the opposition doing? Second is, clearly this has to be unconstitutional, right? I mean, I don't know. Like, as a layperson, those are my two things I go to. Like, what do you think?
I refer to my Indian Express offer tab. People can look at it. I've given good reasons why I think it's unconstitutional. It offends constitutional morality. In addition to that, it's a very, very bad public uh, policy choice because it doesn't serve the public. It's not in the favor of the public, and in favor of the political interest of the government. Not also in the interests of governance by the government. Yeah, this is why I say things are becoming much more restricted in India. They are becoming bad. We are down a very, very bad path. Now, in terms of like what is the opposition doing about it? The opposition is, I think so, by and large, also like it's trying to raise and rally as many people to its cause. I think it's quite a common feature in which we kind of punch down on on the opposition. The first thing to consider is just in terms of disclosures which are published by the Association for Democratic Rights. We need to realize that a fraction of the money for political funding goes to the opposition. It's a much more smaller entity in that sense. So when we compare our companies or our work or our etc. with, let's say, a company which has 10 times the resources we need as a political outfit, we need to be clear: the entire opposition versus one political party, just in terms of funding. So what more can they do? The second thing is, in terms of the
I'm so sorry.
opposition.
I didn't understand I'm so sorry, but I didn't understand the funding
So if,
part actually.
so if a political party has 10 times the funding of the entire Indian opposition, it makes the opposition's job a little much more difficult, right? It's ultimately
Okay,
also in
okay.
terms of the resources which are available for you to do the things that you do. I just want people to know that it's not as if the opposition and the government are, or a political party which is in government right now, are on, in terms of the same weight category in a boxing match, right? So the second thing is that the opposition has in fact done these kind of things, but the institutions which allow participation have actually been eroded over a period of time. So Parliament has this committee called Standing Committee for IT, which is supposed to be non-partisan, draws members from different political parties, and it's the committee to examine these issues, right? And that committee gave one report on internet shutdowns, recommended certain reforms, but the government refused to implement it by itself. The government refuses to implement directions by the Supreme Court or even by the High Courts on the IT rules. It still sends notices for publishers, even though it's state, etc. So I would say
I'm
this.
completely confused here. Like, but how can they do that? Like, I mean, like, how can you not follow through a Supreme Court order? Like, isn't that can't you be sent to jail for if you do that?
No, the courts have historically not sent public officials to jails for contempt of court. That is contempt, but then you have to establish there's contempt. You have to go to court again. The institutional process which is there right now is essentially, I think, not being implemented in a form which is democratic, which means that one institution respects the authority of the other institution and then performs its own functions and duties, which means the legislature makes the laws, the executive enforces it, and the court judges what's constitutional, right? This is not happening right now. I'm very clear. For instance, the Anuradha Bhasin internet shutdown judgment, right? It directed review committees to be instituted and for orders to be published. Internet shutdown orders are still not published when internet shutdowns occur in several states. Our report, which was published this month, demonstrates that across states all over India. Second, review committees, which are supposed to review these internet shutdowns, when entire states are blacked out from the internet to see if the reasons make sense, if the duration is well justified, can it be permitted for some services, denied for other services. Not been constituted, right? No, don't examine these orders. Look at Manipur. I'm just giving one instance. You look at the IT rules by itself. The ministry is sending, as a recorded fact, and we have said, notices for compliance to digital news publishers despite stay orders being there, which are both specific and general. And when people say this doesn't make sense, I would like them to open the newspaper and read it at least for 1 week, and they'll have a good sense of what's happening in this country. Because our institutions are not working as per their functions. In fact, it's all being centralized towards a greater degree of executive control. That's what's been happening over a period of time, and that trend is very, very destructive, both for our democratic values and our constitutional rights. That's the issue, and that's the broad stay of my work, what I do on a day